This podcast brought to you by Digital Diamond Entertainment.
All right, Vex, run the intro.
So when am I getting paid for this?
Kind of like a podcast, sort of, but not really. We're podcast-ish.
What's this ish?
What do you mean? To run this week now?
Some material may be inappropriate for children under 13.
Hey, welcome to the Podcastish podcast, where every week we give you the facts, fictions, and twisted opinions on human behavior. We believe words are important and facts don't give a damn about your feelings. So sit back and strap in, because this week the set goes in on language/communication. Will, let's get this bag one time, King.
Yeah. So today's episode was brought to you by Lex on 17th and Chinook for all your hype beast stay fresh needs.
Yeah.
From Yeezy to Jordan to Adidas to Supreme to Bape, all that good shit. If you want to stay fly for the summer, winter, or fall, any of the season, let Lex be the reason. 17th Avenue and Chinook Mall.
I know you guys are wondering why you didn't hear my voice on the intro. As you probably tell, I'm a little sick. So these guys are going to be doing most of the talking this week. As you heard in the intro, we are going in on language and communication. But first, I'm your host, Pernell Ramlaw, alongside the one and only Vex, John Vex.
Thank you.
And his cohort, his partner in crime, Mr. Will Hayes.
The Ace Boone Coon.
The what now?
The Ace Boone Coon.
Okay. We're going to stick with that?
Just for today.
Today.
Just for today.
I'll have something
And
new
today,
next week.
I'd like you to refer to me as the Big Booty Daddy.
I don't know why you want me to keep referring to your ass,
booty.
but that's not happening today, okay? First, you wanted me to acknowledge that your bumpsy was big, and then you wanted me to call you the big
To acknowledge that what?
his bumpsy.
Bumpsy?
Bumpsy.
That is
Yeah, I was going to say, is that an island term?
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
Yeah, Will is non-island, so I think we...
And the
we need
headphones
to
come
keep
off
it
that early.
I'm more peninsula.
Yeah, it's true.
Will is peninsular, sometimes continental.
Because sometimes continental.
Okay, we have two
Stay
aspects
away
of
from
it.
my port.
We got two aspects of this episode here today. You guys want to start with language or communication?
Well, I don't think you can have communication without language, so let's do that.
You absolutely
In a
can.
nutshell.
You can have language that is communication, but communication doesn't always have to be language.
How so?
We'll get into it.
Because even if you're not communicating in a, shall we say, standard way, such as speaking to someone or writing a letter, right? Body language would still be a type of language.
Right.
Or type of communication.
Okay.
Right? That's just what I'm trying to get at. But anyway, you were going to say something. So
You can communicate, I was going to say you can communicate displeasure by throwing a rock at someone. That rock is not language, but you communicated that you pissed off.
There you go.
Interesting.
But I guess the body language would be the
That's
throwing
the
of
go-to.
the rock.
Yes.
Well,
that could be a form of body language.
That
yes.
nigga's mad.
all right, well, let's start with the
3
two
minutes.
definitions.
How you know he's mad? His body language. And there was a rock involved.
What'd you get in 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Dude throws a rock through the window. He's mad. Why? His body language, dear. His body language.
if it was throwing a walk through the window, it wouldn't be a nigger.
No. It might.
Kept
Kept burning his rice and peas.
It's true. Let's do the couple definitions here. I'll do language. There's two definitions of language, and I'll jump into the definitions of communication right away. We can kind of structure how we can want to go from there. So, language, the method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting of the use of words in a structured and conventional way. That's number one. Number two is a system of communication used by a particular country or community.
I think they're missing another one. Computer languages.
Yes, I think that's more. Well, we'll get into it.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the topic we're talking
Exactly.
about. Got it.
Now, for communication, number one is the imparting or exchanging of information or news. And number two, means of sending or receiving information, such as telephone lines or computers. So, as I was saying, language is communication, but communication isn't always language. Let's start with language. Because you and I were speaking on the way home the other day about some crazy shit that I kind of want to get into right away.
Yeah, and I would love to hear Will's opinion on this too, because it's something that I've rolled around in my mind for quite a few years, and I did not do my homework. I was going to check and see if there were any papers written on said subject, but I Well, because I'm lazy
You had
and because I'm Trinidadian.
one job.
I had, well, yeah.
Actually, you had no job.
Yes, I had
and
no
you
job.
still had no job.
Yes.
That is lazy. That is beyond lazy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment. I strive for laziness.
Awesome.
No, the what Parnell and I were talking about was how language impacts or could possibly impact intelligence. And that being said, what we were kind of throwing back and forth and what my idea has always been was that the language that you initially learn can, maybe not will necessarily, but can have a heavy impact on your intelligence, right? So, for example, if you contrast or compare and contrast Chinese with English, right? Chinese tends to be a very specific language. It's very symbolic. Words are represented by symbols in a lot of cases, or in most cases. So you have to really and truly have a very good memory in order to write the language properly, right? Whereas with English, because it's a phonetic language, we don't need to remember symbols necessarily, but we do need to remember how to spell it.
All right. I
Right.
think, and I think I was saying to you that I think there is some truth to that, or there might be some truth to that, simply because we see all the time that Asia is not necessarily Chinese, but I mean most Asians that have a symbol language are very much more adapted to higher education, higher learning.
Yeah.
They get higher marks, as seen with the Harvard thing. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
the reverse discrimination now against Asian
Right.
students. Yeah.
so there may be some credence to it. I'm not sure if it's 100% correct because I couldn't find anything on it myself.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, obviously, this is all observational and anecdotal. You look at, let's say, Chinese and Japanese culture, they're very, very. Their rules and laws and way of doing things is very strict, right? And I believe the language that they speak has a very big impact on that, right? Whereas if you look at like English-speaking countries, they tend to be a lot more, I suppose you could say, fluid, right?
Right.
So the rules of the language that you learn, I believe, will permeate into how you live your life. What do you think of that, Will? Does that make any sense to you? Do you think that?
How you live your life as far as academically?
Just in general, like not even only academically, but like even to look at it in another way, you look at a lot of people who come from sub-Saharan Africa, right? And they amaze me every time because these people know like 15 languages. How in the world do you learn 15 languages fluently?
Yeah, I work with a Sudanese guy and he knows 7 languages fluently. Like,
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, you look at that, and a lot of people in that area of the world learn 5 dialects by the time they're 10 years old. You know, because there are so many different types of people all around speaking different languages that they need to know all of this, right? So I believe that helps their brains develop in a way where their aptitude is, well, yeah, I could pick up languages, no problem.
Yeah. I think that's something that's lost here mostly in North America because it is all mostly English speaking, right? And it's such a huge expanse that you don't really need to learn anything. Even though in Canada we have English and French as national languages.
Yeah.
And they teach us both all the way up until grade 6.
I can't remember when I stopped learning it. I know I failed French all the time. I don't know why. I just couldn't pick it up for some reason. Language is not my thing, even though I want it to be.
Yeah.
Right. And then again, I know people that know, like I said, the guy didn't know 7 languages. I know a girl that knows 12 languages. Like I think once you're immersed in it so deeply when you're young, I think it's much easier for the brain to pick things up when you're younger, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that one fellow I used to do music with. His 2-year-old son was completely fluent in both English and Spanish. And he could switch on the fly. And he could switch knowing beforehand if he was speaking to someone who knew Spanish or someone who knew English. Right? So because I know both languages, Spanish a lot less than English, of course.
You can barely speak English.
I can barely speak English. But anyway, I would talk to him in both languages and he would respond instantly in the language that I was talking to him in. Right? So I think the example I was telling you, Parnell, was he was rolling a ball to me and I looked at him and I was like, yeah, are you ready, Nathan? And he would look at me and go, yes, I'm ready, throw the ball. And then the second time he threw the ball back to me and I threw it back to him, I said in Spanish, I said, ¿Estás listo? And he goes, "Sí, estoy listo," which means, "Are you ready?" And he responded, "Yes, I am ready," but in Spanish,
Right.
Without skipping a beat. Right?
There was no analyzing, no nothing like that.
No.
Just kind of went right into it.
Just went right into it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that's picked up from how far immersed you are into the language, I guess, into the culture or whatever else, right? Like, I know people that have gone traveling that have stayed in a place for 2 months and all of a sudden they speak it fluently, right? Or at least enough to get by to do whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
Fluency comes after 6 months, a year, whatever, however long it takes, right? Depending on what language it is, obviously.
Yeah, and then there are some people I know who've been living in Canada the majority of their lives and don't speak English properly. It's really strange.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke, but I figured I wouldn't. Let's get into language. Let's just run through the Wikipedia real quick. Language is a system that consists of the development, acquisition, maintenance, and use of complex systems of communication, particularly the human ability to do so. And a language is any specific example of such a system. The scientific study of language is called linguistics. Questions concerning the philosophy of language, such as whether words can represent experience, have been debated at least since Gorgias and Plato in the ancient Greece. Thinkers such as Rousseau have argued that language originated from emotions, while others like Kant have held that it originated from rational and logical thought. 20th century philosophers such as weird name guy argued that philosophy is really the study of language.
Weird name guy.
Major figures in linguistics include Ferdinand de Saussure and Noam Chomsky. So I knew this before they came up, but I want to know what you guys think. Give me an estimate of how many languages are in the world?
How many languages are in the world?
Right. Including dialects, all that fun stuff.
Oh, including dialects.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm going to put it in I would say maybe 50,000. That is my rough estimate, uneducated guess. 50,000.
What do you think, Will?
Sounds like a good number.
All right.
All right. Well, you guys are off by a factor of 10.
Wow, 5 million?
No, it's 5,000. 5 to 7,000.
Including dialects.
Including dialects, yeah. So estimates of the number of human languages in the world vary between 5,000 and 7,000. However, any precise estimate depends on a partly arbitrary distinction between languages and dialects. Natural languages are spoken or signed, but any language can be encoded into secondary media using auditory, visual, or tactile stimuli. For example, in whistling, signed, or braille. This is because human language is modality independent, depending on philosophical perspectives regarding the definition of language and meaning. When used as a general concept, language may refer to the cognitive ability to learn and use systems of complex communication, or to describe the set of rules that make up these systems, or the set of utterances that can be pronounced from those rules. That is a long-ass run-on sentence. All languages rely on
communication.
All languages rely on the process of semiosis to relate signs to particular meanings. Oral, manual, and tactile languages contain a phonological, I can't say that word ever.
Done phonics Parnell, come on, man.
Yeah, phonological system that governs how symbols are used to form sequences known as words or morphemes, and a syntactic system that governs how words and morphemes are combined to form phrases and utterances.
And just to be clear, you're saying morpheme and not morphine.
Yeah, yes,
okay,
morpheme.
Cool.
Sorry, my nose is a little clogged. I might need some morphine.
Maybe codeine, not morphine.
Well, either way, I think I'll be feeling better.
You need something with an een.
You're going to be feeling.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So, where do you guys want to go from here? We can go history. We can start bullshitting.
About language?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm really. Actually, yeah, we could do either. Right? I'm still curious though as to what Will thinks of my theory.
You're going to have to hit me with it one more time.
That language determines intelligence in a nutshell.
Basically, if you're using a symbolic language as your written language,
you're more susceptible to than if you use the.
You're smarter than if you
Actually,
just use letters.
Well, you know what? Let me rephrase that a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe not intelligence in a strict sense, but your language will definitely determine your pattern of thought. Like it will be the foundation for your pattern of thought.
Well, you got to think the first thing you learn when in life is language.
Yeah.
And every language has a distinct way of learning it if you're just coming from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But So you have to learn that language. As a child, you're not really learning a language. You're adapting into being able to speak it with whoever's talking to you. You don't really learn to speak. Now, you know the language, but learning as far as like having to remember the symbols. Remember one symbol means this and one symbol means that, but put them together, it's a whole different thing. I think just the way that you have to teach that would mold that mind to be more susceptible, not to higher intelligence, but into a different way of learning things that may grasp it better than how English languages or phonetical? Yeah,
phonetic language.
Phonetic languages are compared to symbolic, because like you said, the only thing you have to remember is to spell it. Yeah. But then we bump into, especially with English, there's a lot of different variances and different meanings to words. So we have to, there's symbols, that symbol means that. Yes. Whereas we have there, and there.
Exactly, which depending on the context could mean different things.
Exactly. Yeah. The context means different things. We're learning that as we hear it, so we're learning to adapt to maybe a different way of looking at the same thing. So it means different. Yeah. And then another thing is read and read. Yes. And they could be in the same context and put into the same sentence in the same place.
Yes. Did you read it? Yes, I read it.
Yes, exactly. Or did you read it? Yes, I read it. Or yes, I will. And it's like if you catch this lead and lead, yeah, which aren't even the same as read and read, because read and read are towards the same thing. Lead and lead as far as, well, I'm leading you here, and lead as far as this is a heavy lead object. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we learn that, and it gives our language the opportunity to have upgrades and new pieces of that language. I don't think the Webster's Dictionary or there's new words and languages in the symbolic ones, because it's a symbol, and then it's not new, it's just this symbol, and this symbol goes to it. And you hear that when you hear translations, when you're watching these shows, you hear the translations. And when we read it, it's totally it makes it's just a weird way of saying it. Like, and you're saying what they're saying, but they're saying it how we would say it. But when it's translated into how we would say it, it's backwards or something like that. Instead of I'll take you here is I'll take you there where I am. Well, you know what I'm saying?
In Spanish, they give you the question mark before the symbol is written, right?
But it's upside down, and then there's the question mark after the
end.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a question coming up, but they also put the noun before. However, I don't know how the fuck they do it. It's almost backwards, like half the sentence is backwards.
Yeah, they do the noun before the description, right? So instead of like in English, they'll say a red car, right? In Spanish, they'll say carro rojo.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then coming up in Trinidad, I remember hearing the older folks saying things like, if it was a hot day, they would say something, or they would say it making hot, right? So that sounds like an uneducated idiot speaking English, right? But the history of Trinidad in specific, and the older people saying it making hot, comes directly from Spanish, right? The Spanish translation, or the way Spaniards say it's hot, they'll say hace calor, which directly translated to English means it's making hot.
Weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah, I think, I mean, let's be honest, the English we speak is completely bastardized compared to how it was. I'm not going to say originally intended, because you can't really originally intend a language, but how it was originally spoken back in England or wherever the fuck it originated from, right? Yeah. We've taken it, we've kind of made it our own, and we've made it the most difficult language in the world to learn.
Well, standard English, no, but every offshoot of it. So in any region so you go to the South in the US and they speak English very differently than they do in New York. Right. And they speak, and people on the East Coast of Canada speak English differently than on the West Coast. Yeah. Right? People in Jamaica speak Englishly different than every other part of the world. Right. I mean,
yeah. No, that's true.
But yeah.
That's true.
Right? And so every English speaking region seems to have their own offshoot of it, own dialect of it, right? Which is why my number was so high, like what I was thinking, 50,000. Yeah. Right?
And the dialects of those regions, you could tell a lot of the port cities, a lot of the major hubs and things like that, the dialect derives from whatever dominant other language with that. So if you look at like Nova Scotia and everything like that, that's derived from I want to say Scottish or
Irish
or
or
something
something.
like that. One of the two, right? Ireland or Scotland.
Yeah.
It's derived a lot from that. If you go to the southern states, you got the Creole, which is derived a lot from the French
Yeah.
and the
Spanish.
Haitians that
Yeah.
were in French, Spanish, and Haitians and stuff. So a lot of dialects, especially in English. Now, I've never been to any Asian countries. I've never been to any islands, so I don't know how, if that the same type of influence happens. If you go to if there's different, if I'm listening, if I hear Korean, I guess someone from one part of Korea, another part of Korea, I wouldn't be able to tell that they have an accent.
Right.
But they probably would,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely, and that's where we get into like the kind of, I guess, the
yeah, but hold on. But what I was saying is, the thing with English is English came from a Latin style, but a lot of English is still to this day influenced either by in slang or by accents by other languages and other
cultures,
cultures
yeah.
and other regions.
Yeah.
So it seems like English is a morphing, and the dialect part of it it morphs.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what? That's the thing about language. Language is always morphing, right? Language is always moving. It's always conducting itself of how people are going to use it, right?
Yeah, it seems to have a life of its own sometimes,
Right.
right?
It-
And depending on the region too.
Right, and that's the thing is that's also where we get that's how people used to be able to identify where somebody's from, right? But
Yes.
if we speak English, I can tell somebody's from Newfoundland,
Yes.
or I can tell somebody is from Jamaica,
Yes.
right? That's how they used to almost class people. I don't know if you go to England, you can be in one town and have somebody literally a mile away in a different town, completely different accent.
Yes.
And it could be the difference between £100,000 a year they're making or £20,000 a year they're making,
Yeah.
right? So people will class them in an economic state just
Yeah.
from their accent, right?
Yeah.
And it's been one of those things that has hurt people simply because of where they're from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the history of that necessarily, but I think something can be said for I suppose the way you speak English will indicate your education level at the very least.
Well, I don't think so, and I'm going to rebut that really quick, just simply because you can hear people from Georgia speak or Mississippi, whatever, right? And they could have a great education, but they'll still speak with the slow Southern drawl because that's
Yeah, the drawl is not what I'm talking about, though. There are more subtleties than just the drawl, right? I used to see this in Trinidad a lot, and again, my experience there, Trinidad is a very interesting place to observe humanity. But that being said, you could always tell the uneducated people by the way they spoke, generally, right? Given the scenario they were in, etc., etc. So, for
Talking about
example,
not the way they spoke or what they said, how they said it.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, I would say, let's say Parnell and I and Will were having a conversation, and you guys asked me, where did I pick up my shoes? Right? So, someone of, I suppose, normal Trinidadian education would say something like, I bought my shoes at so-and-so store. I bought my shoes at Foot Locker. Right? Or if I'm talking to my friends, I would say something like, I buy my shoes at Foot Locker. Right? But the difference is who you're talking to and what the context is. Right? Someone of a lower education would not be able to switch from dialect, what we call in Trinidad dialect, what they'd say in Jamaica patois. They would not be able to switch from dialect to what we consider proper English.
right.
Right?
It'd be like Ebonics and like and
Proper English.
Yeah, proper English. I guess.
Right,
Well,
so-
New York English.
Yeah, so and I mean, honestly, and this is not to knock on anyone or whatever, but if you use the US as an example, right, people who do not have a higher education will either speak with Ebonics or with a trailer trash, what we think is trailer trash kind of
So,
way
but
of
does that
speaking.
actually indicate it, or is that just indicates our stereotypes towards that?
I think both. I think
Yeah.
both. I think there's an argument that can be made for one side and one that can be made for the other, right? Because of the fact that, again, I'm a college educated person, but when I'm around Trinidadians, it's dialect. We just speak dialect. So an outsider hearing us will look at us and say, "Wow, these monkeys are idiots," right?
Yeah.
But
But I think you have to take that on on a very personal, one-on-one basis.
Yes,
when you're hearing
very
somebody
true,
speak.
very
Right? You
true.
can't
You
just we can't just generalize about it, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's something to note, but it's also something to be like. That's where stereotypes come from, really, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and usually you see stereotypes come mostly from language.
Yeah.
Because language,
I see stereotypes coming from language.
yeah, language dictates kind of behavior, right? Which dictates stereotypes.
Yeah. Right. It's an interesting way of looking at it. I never thought of that.
It does. It's true, but some stereotypes are based in truth, however small truth that may be. Right?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
So, like, I know how we look at, like, at the end of the day, we can look at the South and say, like, oh, they're slow, they're da-da-da-da. But then you have a conversation with T.I., who's using that slang, who's using that drawl, but he's highly educated. It's 2 Chainz as well, has a bachelor in
Negonometry.
something.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what
I
I'm
know
saying?
exactly
So-
what you're saying, yeah.
But then I think a lot with the language, and I think we think the same thing sometimes about people from Newfoundland that have a deep Newfoundland accent.
Or the
There's a
Brunswick
stereotype
accent
about
too.
that,
Like,
yeah.
they have. Well, I think it's because we're so
It's-
used to hearing all
Either
the
that or media.
derogatory things.
Yeah,
about it,
derogatory
right?
things, and it's either that or the media. Because I know with that Brunswick accent,
Are we fake news in this again? Real
I
quick,
think-
we're fake news in this that quick?
I think we have
All
to
right.
because like the Brunswick accent, and I hear it, all I think about is Dave and Doug. Right? And they weren't the brightest tools in the shed, right? It is Dave and Doug, isn't it?
Mackenzie, yeah.
Yeah. So they're not the brightest tools in the shed from that media, but that's how I looked at Easterners when I was a kid because I loved SCTV. And then that came over, and then they're drinking the Canadian stuff, like, and they're watching hockey. I'm like, fuck that, and I thought that was cool, but you didn't think like I love that shit. Like I'm Canadian as hell. But when you
Yeah, I know.
but I think that media put that stereotype into our head, and same thing with the South. Same thing with if you hear someone with a Canadian accent, that's the
That's the
U.S. is
mindset,
thinking
yeah.
about us, but they don't think that we're dumb or anything like that. But
No,
they
just
think
think
they hear
we're
a Canadian
nice.
accent, they think we're overtly nice.
Yeah.
Like we
And so
dropped
does
the
the rest of
polar
the
bear.
world. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, we kind of have that stereotype going
Oh,
for
we're
us,
just
right?
we're the number 1 country to live in as per.
Yeah, Vancouver was rated number 4 city, or Vancouver was rated number 4
I
city
thought
in
we
the
were higher
world.
than. Yeah, I think we're higher than Vancouver though.
Well, Toronto, no, Calgary. Calgary was number 1 rated
gotta
for
look.
best, for cleanest and economically, whatever it was, last year, 2 years ago. Vancouver was number 4 or something like that, but there was 3 cities that broke the top 5, or broke the top 10. I think.
The world's most livable cities. Number 1's Osaka, Japan. Number 2 is Calgary, Canada. 3 Sydney. 4 is Vancouver.
Yeah.
And 7 and it's a tie between Toronto and Tokyo.
Yeah,
is
so
what's it called?
3
Yeah.
in the top 10. Yeah, it's
Yeah, because that's
crazy.
why I knew Calgary was there because I was watching on the news. I'm like, yeah,
Calgary was number 1 last year.
was it?
Yeah,
Nice.
not. Is it 2019 or 2018? The one you're looking
18.
at. Yeah, so 2017. We were
That's
number
what,
1.
when you said last year. I'm still thinking 17. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
had to analyze it myself when I said it. I'm like, God damn.
You're like last year. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
nigga,
last year, yeah.
last year was 28 days ago. What you mean?
Is it 28th already? No, it's the 26th.
No, today's 27.
Gee,
So if it was 27 days ago,
26 today.
it'd be the first.
26 today.
Would it? Huh?
It's the 26th today.
Oh shit! I'm not supposed to be here. No. But no. Fuck. I gotta be 100% honest with you. Language and communication. I definitely thought this was gonna go in a different direction. I'm still fucking having a hard time even answering John's question.
It's a mind teaser, isn't it?
yeah, and this is
Yeah.
it's like
Well, Will, you and I had it.
I'm looking for some excitement here, guys.
Okay. Well,
Let's
we're gonna,
fake news it all. Like what's okay? So
we'll get there. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute.
we're 28 minutes in.
Okay,
this ain't the morning pee. This
Well, you and I had.
you want a lozenge?
Yeah, I do. The reason the reason I'm doing this is we're doing this topic now, or this episode like this now, is because you and I had a topic. I think episode 11 or 12 when we were moving studios that John wasn't a part of. And we did communication, and we did literally half an hour, 45 minutes on just communication, how to communicate.
How to communicate? Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to get the language out of the way first, just to see where our heads would fall on this. But I really want to get into communication,
Okay.
and maybe we can do this because I think that one was back in the days when we didn't get a lot of listeners, and people need to hear that.
Yeah, and I do feel like language is important. It's an important subject, but I feel like it's hit on I don't even know. Like, how is language? How do you excite language up? Because we could, like, what different type? How many dialects? But language, like,
Yeah, you really can't go further than like
yeah.
the facts.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what's like? There's anything like we could talk about?
Like I disagree that there is language.
We could talk
You
about
know,
why there's
that kind of
we could
nonsense.
talk about why there's a miscommunication between languages. We could talk about something that popped off, something in the news that's like high up there, and it's only because like there was wars because of language. You know what I'm saying? I think
Okay,
the Cold War.
Let's talk about something right now that was miscommunicated very poorly.
Yeah, let's talk about that and
Okay.
just see how we feel about that and get that out there.
There was a 17-year-old kid that wore a red MAGA hat that stood in front of a Native American drummer, and the only
I thought
thing
the drummer walked to him.
The drummer did walk.
the only thing you saw on the news was the kids smirking in the guy's face,
Right.
and
That's what the whole
not
uproar
annoying
is.
him, not harassing him, just standing there, standing his own ground. That was the first video that came out. Was just the guy beating his drum and the kid standing there.
And
the
that's what
longer
pissed people
video,
off.
yeah,
Okay.
the longer 2-hour video that came out shows this guy, the drummer, walking up to him in the middle of what rally was it?
The March for Life.
The March for Life. This is a known shit disturber.
Yeah, he's a known liberal activist. Let's say.
Activist.
No
Right,
shit
he
disturber? Yeah, he's a
no,
known
I think
liberal.
I think it was a week prior. He went and interrupted a Catholic mass,
Yeah.
Right.
drumming in the mass for God knows what reason.
Right. So
And let me guess, he knew there was cameras there. He saw the MAGA hat. There's an
And-
opportunity.
Yeah,
to-
he also
Absolutely.
targeted specifically Catholic students.
Yeah.
absolutely. So you have this miscommunication through media, only showing this 10-second or 15-second clip about, and all the news was towards this kid wearing a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Right, when it should have been on what's the real story. And I keep saying this on every fucking podcast, almost every time. You know, we have to start getting to the bottom of everything, right? We have to start knowing the facts of the situation before we start putting our own 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Now, let me hit you with this.
No.
Was that a miscommunication by the media, or was it specific communication to cause misinformation?
I think the second, what you said there,
I think
the second
mix
one.
the both.
But-
No, I
mixed
don't
two.
think
It's not
I think- I think-
exactly what the media. A miscommunication is somebody tries to communicate something to you, and it's either misinterpreted or misunderstood, or
Okay.
you have to do it again.
Then the latter.
Then
It's the
yeah,
latter.
because what the media wanted to communicate got communicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's keep
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
150.
it was. Yeah, it was definitely done 100% to their knowledge.
Yeah, they
They-
knew what was up,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it wasn't even I wouldn't even call that a miscommunication, so to speak. I would call that agenda-driven propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Simply because of the
Yeah.
fact that they saw the video. Everyone in the media knew what actually happened, but they spun it in a way to put forth a certain image, right? That was different from what actually happened. And to me, the proof is in the pudding, because any retraction that was made was a very small retraction at the end of the article or something or whatever.
Or
right?
not
It
even
wasn't-
retracted.
Oh, not even retracted, right?
Just,
so
just a Twitter
Yeah.
a Twitter post pulled down or something. Not even a retraction.
Exactly.
But then
so,
And this isn't the
Yeah.
first time it's happened either.
And you got to
No.
look at like how we interpret that communication. And if you look at the video, he has a smug look on his face.
Yeah.
Everybody hates a smug look on your face, but that's really not a huge uproar. So everybody's like, "Oh, he just stood there and did a smug look and disrespected the dude." No.
Oh no, I heard things. It was
If this-
race. This kid is racist.
Yeah.
I'm like, for what?
So-
Tell me how this is racist.
If
Yeah.
but I'll tell you right now how this is racist, because there's a red hat in the video.
Yeah.
If he was a kid, if this exact same thing happened and he was wearing a beanie, it wouldn't be an issue. If this exact same thing happened and it wouldn't be an issue. You have motherfuckers that drive a car through a protest, and motherfuckers are saying like, "Oh, he must have mental problems. He must have been this, that, and that, that." And then they start using the race card. If he was black, he was this. We just saw that if you're white, you're going to get thrown under the bus just because you wore a hat. Now, the hat may rub people the wrong way, but if they look at that video, they could be like, okay, so the drummer's in his face, he's sitting there smiling, smiling at the drummer.
Not giving up
Regardless,
his ground.
yeah. And so the disrespect was only taken by people who saw that, or maybe the drummer did a CNN interview. I don't know. But at the end of the day, they could have been like, well, the drummer could have stepped back. Oh, the boy could have stepped back. Or this, that, and the third. But nobody in that video could look at that video and think any of those two parties, that 2-minute video, if you think anything other than these two parties are having a Mexican standoff that was boring as hell.
You racist.
Boring is Mexican standoff racist?
I think so. Things we're not allowed to say.
That's probably
Censored.
more xenophobic than racist, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
But it was boring as hell.
It
So
was
you have to
boring as
spin
hell.
something, and you got to think about with the government shutdown and the sports are done. There's the NHL's breaks. There's nothing happening between now and the Super Bowl, and I don't think anybody died that day in the world. It was a slow news day.
You see what happens when you give these guys just an ounce?
It was
A
a slow
little
news
ounce?
day. So what did they do on slow news days? They just go through social media
And look for stupid
and look
shit.
for stupid shit and find a part of it. Like how many times, like if you watch the news in the morning and you see there's a news story about, I saw a news story today about this dad and his son, single dad. His mom died. His mom's favorite artist was Bryan Adams. At Bryan Adams' favorite, he took his son to the Bryan Adams concert during his mom's favorite song, and his son was in the front row. Bryan Adams handed down and gave the kid the pick. Awesome story. Kid was in
Wow.
tears and thinking my grandmother's looking off. Awesome story, right? Awesome story. How do you think the news found out about that shit?
Social media.
They didn't call the news and say, hey, da 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 da. Social media. He probably had a social media post, and the news did that shit. That's news doing. That's digging in, and that's good. That's good shit. But if they're on social media finding that good shit, they're also on social media trying to find something that's going to keep us angry at each other. And they communicate this shit.
Yeah, I know that's, yeah.
They communicate this shit. Because I went on it had nothing to do with communication. And they communicated to us.
No, and I think you know what, you touched on a good point there though, the social media aspect of communication now and how it's actually changed how we communicate, right? Just in general, right? And I think we've talked about this
Text.
a little bit. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before, where before social media, we were forced, in a manner of speaking, to be more social, which is strange, right? It's very strange. Like, literally, you had to sit with people, talk to them.
Social media is definitely misnamed.
Yes, social media is very anti-social, right? You have the illusion of being social because you can reach out virtually to a lot more people. But in actuality, in actual physical reality, you are isolated.
And you know what's funny? When phones started getting popular and they started throwing them in everybody's house, these conversations that we have about social media were had about phones.
yeah.
Did you know that giving kids books and kids reading too much, they because the kids read, but when they started, at some point in the old days, books started popping. And
Yes.
kids were just reading for no reason. You had the Nancy Drews and the da-da-da, and
Yeah.
they started popping. I'm talking like 50s, 60s and shit, right? They had the same discussion about books that we do about our kids always being on their iPads and shit.
Yeah, I think with that, especially in the 50s and 60s, it was probably, or 40s and 50s maybe, it might have been centered and focused more around comic books.
Yeah, and the comic
Right?
books too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So isn't that fucked up? How maybe we're wrong because they were.
Yeah, listen, I take a pretty big stand here. I know there's this whole thing about how you should monitor your kids' screen time and all this stuff, especially iPads and phones and whatever else. My kid's 6, and I know the world isn't going to go backwards in time. So I'm letting him have as much as he wants screen time. People will say that's the wrong way to do it.
Wouldn't say it's the wrong way as long as you're not letting him have as much as he wants if it goes over something that's supposed
Yeah,
to.
no, he doesn't. Nothing gets missed. Like he still does his kickboxing, he still does school, he still's got all this other stuff, right? That he has to take care of before he gets it. But my point to that was that the world isn't going to revert back to books, right? I don't think.
No, we're not going to revert back to
Yeah, we're just
books.
going to. The technology is going to progress, right? I'd rather him get a handle on the technology and know what's going on at a younger age, so he can have a better pickup
Oh,
of
I
it
see
than
what
what
you're
I did,
saying.
right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if we think about it,
You're horrible with-
computers and
yeah.
stuff came up when I was in we had a computer class in grade 10 or 11, right? Like it was
Like 10 or 11?
Grade
Really?
10 or
Nigga,
11.
how old are you? 50?
No, it was grade.
No, for real. I had a computer class. It was like grade 5. Like the Skinny Max and did you play Oregon Trail?
Yeah, no,
like,
listen, that's the only thing we did was we didn't learn anything about computers, right?
But you didn't learn how to type?
We barely knew how to type, right? But we played Oregon Trail. But
But
now
you have
they're
to type in Oregon Trail. That's the whole point of the game.
I know. I was playing the game. I wasn't typing.
You was hot. But you have to type.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Why?
I wasn't.
Why? But didn't they have the one with letters fall from the sky?
Goddamn. But what I'm saying is that now in schools they have
Computer programming classes.
programming and and software writing and developing and all this bullshit, right? So if my son can get a better handle and know his way around at least the physical aspect of a computer or an iPad or something, then at least that gives him an edge up, right? As far as I'm concerned.
Well, I don't know. I think that this is the way I see it. And this is so I started learning about computers in, I guess, what would be the equivalent here of grade 4 or grade 3.
So 1923.
Okay. So my high school in Trinidad, we had computer programming classes, right? But we would program in BASIC. But I think the analogy you're giving here is not necessarily quite accurate. So the reason I'm saying that is you look at Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, and I can't remember who the CEO of Twitter is or whatever, but they do not allow their children on social media.
Right. I'm
right.
My kid's not on social media. Let me clarify that.
But hold on. And this again is no disrespect to you, but just in my mind, it's looking like I'm putting my kid on the iPad so that he can navigate it. But that's like saying, well, I'm hoping my child can repair TV, so I'll let him watch TV for 5 hours a day.
Oh no! So no,
that's just how it sounds.
No,
to me,
I know what you're saying, but I know exactly how it sounds, right? The only thing I meant to convey there was that my son will know the basics of a computer, of an iPad, of a phone, how to navigate things. He can navigate my phone better than I can, right? Mm-hmm. Just basic skills, I guess he'll need to learn eventually. So might as well give him the leg up.
But to me, navigating an iPad or an iPod or a phone, like these devices are made to be navigated by dummies.
Right.
Right.
So the fuck you trying to say?
That we're all
They're
dummies.
not made to be, they're made to be user friendly. Can we say that? They're made to be navigated by dummies. Man, I got a fucking iPad. I learned. It's good. I ain't no dummy.
I learned.
I'm learned.
No. But what I'm saying, no, I mean, every kid now has an iPad or has a phone or something like that. So I don't want my kid to be left behind as well.
I don't think your child will be left behind if you don't don't give him some FaceTime right now. But that being said, there is an argument to be made to be familiar with technology that's out. Right. So I understand your motivation.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't want him to go through the same hardships I did, where the education wasn't there to do the things I wanted to do. So I want him to be able to have a hand up. If that's my dumbass thinking, okay, if he knows technology, okay, maybe he'll be better in schooling or better with computers and make good money when he's older. You know what I mean? It's a stupid.
Yeah, I think But that is
gotta,
off the topic of communication.
Right. Well, no, I'm trying to communicate to my son that this is how you make money in life, right? This is how you survive life.
Yeah, I think that's I don't want to say that's wrong, because I would never sit here and say that you're raising your kids wrong. You're doing awesome.
Yeah, generally you are, but you're wrong. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think at this age, we should not even show our kids how to be a money-making adult. I don't even think we need to show our kids how to be an adult at this age. My whole thing is like, my daughter, she gets her YouTube on TV time. She doesn't have her iPad anymore because she was slick and hiding it, and then nobody could find it. Next thing you know, she's up till 3 a.m. watching YouTube on her iPad or whatever, right? So she doesn't have that anymore.
She's really your kid.
She is. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's Netflix on mommy's phone in the morning while you're getting ready, because she hates waking up in the mornings, and it's just a struggle. And when she's watching that, she's cool. But then it's like, well, when she comes home and she wants to grab that challenge changer, is nope. Let's write the alphabet on your board. Let's do the alphabet. Or you got numbers. Now she's having fun, because when she doesn't think she's learning, and I'm proud of you. Oh, you awesome. I give her when she walks, after being my daughter, when she walks into the real world, she can be like, fuck, these niggas ain't nice. But my daddy just coddled me. No, but But as soon as that gets there, now she's having fun on the board. So I'm like, yo, draw daddy a sun. Draw daddy what you think a bird looks like. Draw daddy your favorite animal.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color? And da-da-da.
Yeah.
And now she's embracing her creativity.
Right.
So there's always a balance through. But at this point, it's like, well, I understand exactly. And you're not teaching him this is how you do it. You're with these devices that you're like, okay, so if you have a grasp of technology and the path in the bell curve that it's going, when that bell curve peaks, you're not going to be the one calling your service provider saying, I have no idea. What do you mean press the any key? I can't find the any key.
Right. Is it turned on? Is it plugged in?
Exactly. So
like, you know what I mean?
And it's just, yeah, I think right now we just have to I think this is the time where we have our kids embrace their creativity side and still learning, but the creativity side of it. Because at the end of the day, you may not be the money-making adult, but you may be the adult that you may be the adult that changes the world.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like I said, it's not for him to learn. In his mind, he's playing games or he'll play games like math games or whatever else, right? He's playing a game. Right, to him it's not interpreted as learning. It's interpreted as I'm just having fun with my dad.
Hey,
right?
Grayson, do this Sudoku puzzle.
Right, he loves Sudoku. It's weird.
Really, yeah.
And you know what's weird is that
He's not your child.
right when he's having a bath, we have crayons. You can rub right on the tub and stuff like that. I'll be sitting there. I'll put him in the bath. He'll be like, "Daddy, come do math with me. Can you do me some equations?" I'm like, cool. We're doing like 3 and 4 digit equations now, and just plus minus. He's starting to do multiplication and division now, so
that's dope.
You know what I mean? And his reading and his math are completely advanced, right? And I think that's from not only from what he watches on the YouTube or the Netflix or whatever else, right?
The YouTube.
You're
worse than me. Go use the Google.
But it's also because he's taking what he's seeing and what he's doing and incorporating that into his life, and I can see it already. So that's how I know. In my mind, anyway, I know I'm doing something right. Right? It may not be for everybody. Great.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit here and justify it to anybody because fuck you if you don't like it. It's my kid. Right? I don't care. Right? I know you guys aren't judging me. I'm just saying.
No.
I judge you every second.
I know you do.
Yes.
I think everybody judges everybody, but no one's like I don't think it's
Not judgmental.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a difference between judging and being judgmental.
Right. Let's get back to this. Did you see the whole 2-hour video of?
I didn't see any of the video, dude. I saw a
saw a
still.
picture? Yeah.
I saw a still, and I'm like, this is news that I don't even want to dive into because it was just like I saw the picture of the still. I've heard descriptions of it on the news. I think I saw a little clip on it on the news or something like that. But it's mostly. I don't think I was affected by it, either positive or negative, because I'm not on Facebook, and I didn't see it on my social media.
See, I posted. It was funny. I saw
yours is a little extra. Like sometimes I'm like I'm gonna mute him, but I'm like no, because he says important shit that I need sometimes. Because yours is just, and I'm like fuck. I thought I got off social media for this. Pete, you're killing me, Smalls. Like,
right? There was I don't know how I became friends with this guy on social media. I have no idea who he is. But he posted the thing about it, and he said this racist stuff needs to stop, and he showed the video, and I was like, how? I just posted, how is this racist? And then I went to my own timeline and I posted a picture of Homer Simpson in bed saying, "How I sleep while starting a barn fire before you go to sleep, so I can wake up to my coffee and read all the messages." 107
replies.
Yeah. By the time I woke up, 8
And
hours later.
of course, a bunch of people are like, well, this is racist because, and this is racist because. And
No. I was just like, how is this racist? Well, we could start with the hat. Well, the best one I got.
We could start with the hat. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like,
but the thing, like, you can't call a hat racist, right? In that picture, it was whatever.
No.
But what I'm saying is, the most replies I got to that was, if you can't see how this is racist, then you're part of the problem.
Well, that's poor communication.
I'm like, have you seen my skin tone? Like,
yo, that phrase that's the same. Remember when it be in the group chat and I was talking about some people saying shit's subjective, right?
Yeah.
And I said sometimes people say shit is subjective just because they don't want to take the time to explain either why or why not they feel that way. Whether it is subjective or not, explain to me right? And then I started fucking with you about the comedy thing. But and that's what got me going, right? So it wasn't directed at you, but I'm like, I've been seeing a lot, and I think a lot of these what do you call them, SJWs?
yeah,
A lot of the social justice warriors sometimes are so much about the justice warrioring They're forgetting about the social part. So they don't even know why it's racist. They don't even know why this would be racist. They just see that the people who jumped with them on some racist shit and had their backs now think this is racist, and they're like, well, it has to be
So they
racist.
follow,
So they're following suit.
Yeah, that's why
And-
they
but
started calling
yeah.
them NPCs, right?
Yeah.
That's the new term for
Non-playable
SJW.
character?
Non-playable characters. And you're
because
like-
their communication, what they regurgitate has been, it seems like it's just been programmed.
And they just explained to you why they feel that way. They said, if you don't think this is racist, you're probably part of the problem. And that is translated to, I think that's good communication, but you need to read the subtext. The subtext is, I need to think this is racist because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
The perceived problem.
The perceived problem.
At the same time,
Yeah, so that's-
at the same time, you don't know what the problem is, so you're just going to regurgitate a bunch of bullshit that you think is
yeah,
right.
because they don't want to be a part of the problem. They
Right.
don't know what the problem is, but they don't want to be a part of it because they know they don't know what the problem is, and we do the same thing. We sometimes it's like we've toned back a lot of stuff that we would regularly say, but just because we don't want to be a part of, we don't want them problems. We don't want that smoke. There's a problem out there. And if you're a part of the problem, that problem is now you. And being on the shit end of the I'm not racist, but this is how I feel stick feels a lot worse than the I think this is racist, I don't know why, but not all the sheep are walking to the slaughter.
Right.
The one sheep that stands up is the sheep that gets hit first. And this is nothing about communication. I'm just saying,
just
like,
go. I'm
It
writing a
feels
whole
like-
different blurb for this. I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be language communication. It's not.
it feels like you don't like
well, it is communication.
it's a happy life type scenario. Like
happy spouse,
you know
happy
how
house.
like you know how happy spouse, happy house, but you know how sometimes you have to selectively quote unquote lie regardless of anything. So if you
I would say more sugarcoat.
with sugarcoat or something like that, or something, she's like, well, where were you? Let's say you're out hanging out with your homegirl, right? Everybody's cool. There's nothing like that or anything like that. But like you out hanging with your homegirl, you get home, she's like, oh, where were you? And just like the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, I was with the boys. Even though, not because you're lying to her because you think you did something wrong, she's not going to believe you anyways.
You have a fucked up household.
No, I'm not saying with me. Like, she's not gonna believe you anyways. So in most situations, I'm just saying in human situations, sometimes it's like I don't want to be a part of the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know why I'm saying this.
It's give me a second to think of something better than I was with the boys.
Or like, yo, babe, do you like these mirrors for the living room? You don't, but you're saying yes. You don't know why you like the mirrors. You don't know why you like the mirrors, but if you don't like the mirrors, you are a part of the problem and you're going to get problems.
Right.
And that's how it is with SJWs. They don't know what the problem is, but in the media and everything that's put us is the problem is racism. The problem is sexism. The problem is rape. And if you are anything but 750% against it, or against whatever's happening in that meme and that this and that third and that 8 seconds of a 2-hour video, and you don't have the mutual consensus, you're a part of the problem. And when you're a part, look at this kid is a part of the problem. Not because he's a part of the problem that
He
they
didn't cause
perceive,
the problem. He's
but
just
that
part of
he's
the
part of the
problem
problem
now, yeah.
now.
'Cause he's
And
in
when
the
you're-
scenario,
Yeah,
yeah.
and when you're on that end of that problem, you got to switch schools. You got to shut down your social media. You got to change your name. You got to move cities.
Yeah, because these
He's
people
probably
got
getting he's probably getting death threats
They
and
are.
everything. You know what I'm saying? So he's now, because he wasn't a part of because he's a part of the problem without even being a part of the problem.
Yeah, he's just an innocent bystander that got shot.
If he's
Let's
yeah,
say,
exactly.
Right? And to use an analogy, right? But
My
what I
man-
do like about this scenario, though, is that these children's parents are not rolling over. They're actually suing all of the media outlets that put out the wrong story.
yeah.
I'm not sure if they are yet, but
They
they come forward and said they
They
are now,
come
because I know
forward and said they are, and there's a
there's a
lawyer that's
lawyer-
come forward and said he will represent them
for free. He's gonna represent for free. See, this is the kind of podcast I like. Hey, Will, remember when I told you to go fetch?
Now
Here, controversy. Fetch.
okay, so
Oh my gosh.
what? I'm high, nigga. So he's a kid. Let's say the kid was a savage racist. Let's say he was a ravenous racist. He's a kid. He has the opportunity to change.
Everybody does, but I know
As
what you're saying.
as soon as this, regardless of what he is, as soon as this shit gets pushed out there and this media demonize this kid, his opportunities to be anything have dwindled.
Yeah.
I said, that's a child. A grown man is in a child's face, and you see where the world went because of his hat. Even if he is racist or not.
I think we're forgetting the one big thing here is that just as many people that are on the side of social justice warriors, there's just as many people that are on the opposite side thinking about facts, logic, and reason. I think there's more. The only problem is media is pushing this, the lower percentage, the minority opinion, right?
Not only that, the people who are on the side of, let's say, facts, logic, and reason, they're shut down and silenced, right? So their communication is shut down, right? I think a great case in point would be Gab,
Yep.
right? Gab versus Twitter, right? So
Gap?
Gab, G-A-B,
Oh, I don't know.
right?
Yeah,
Gab was it's still around, but it's a Twitter alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of conservative-minded people started going to Gab because they found that Twitter was being too much of a Gestapo-type organization and shutting down their speech, right?
I love how you say that word. Say it again.
What, Gestapo?
One more time.
Gestapo.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was oddly sexual.
Are you searching Gestapo?
No. You've been to you know how I operate my house?
But yeah, all of a sudden now there was a case that came up where there was someone who was using Gab, and what they were saying on their account, this person actually, he did some type of mass shooting. And because of that, there was a big uproar against Gab, and its presence is nowhere near what it used to be now. Right?
You said the person who ran it did a mass
No.
shooting?
A user of Gab.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it would be akin to someone on Twitter saying, blah, 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 I'm going to shoot so-and-so, and then Twitter being corralled into the, timeout space. Right? So that's what happened to Gab.
Didn't
So
that
when
happen
people say,
before?
that my whole point of this is those people who use logic, reason, and don't necessarily make their judgments on feelings, when they try to do something that is alternative, those avenues are now shut to them. Right? So their communication is now shut off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You look at Sargon of Akkad. Right? No one came to his door and said, shut up or we'll shoot you.
Right.
All that happened was his way of making money, aka Patreon, told him, listen, on some other podcast you said the N-word.
Right.
That was not related to your account. But because of that, we are now going to police your behavior because we don't agree with what you're saying.
Right. And we're right now we're seeing a lashback against that now. People like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson are all pulling Patreon accounts off Patreon, right? So that's, they're taking a stand. And Sam Harris makes, probably $50,000, $100,000 a month just off Patreon.
yeah.
He pulled his account. He said, no, if you guys aren't going to stand for free speech and be for creators like you said you were, then I can't be a part of this. And I think people are actually standing up to start taking notice now, right? It's one of those things where it's almost you have to come to this bitter end before things will change.
Yeah. Or what was I looking at the other day? I cannot remember the name of the website. It's something to the effect of like freedomofthepress.org, right? And their whole mandate is to fight against corporations and big government who try to stifle free speech,
Oh, this is going to be good.
right? Here's the twist. They've actually just signed started a petition to get Alex Jones banned from Facebook and stifle his speech.
See, listen, I know there's this big thing about Alex Jones, and I mean, I always say, you're allowed to say whatever you want unless it incites violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what Alex Jones was saying is absolutely ludicrous. It's asinine to even think what he's saying is correct. But his right to say it should trump that.
His right to say it does trump that. He has the right to say whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But the owners of a specific publication or social media site have the right to say this does not follow our guidelines and standards that you click the checkbox to.
Right.
You can say whatever you want, just can't say it here. Everybody has the right to say whatever they want, but you can't step into my house and talk however you want.
Right.
Without no, you can without
without
being
repercussions,
without being banned from the house.
And I understand that. But my thinking to that is, we have to determine whether these social media sites are public entities or whether they're, what did you say they were? Before
service providers, or private entities,
or private entities.
or private businesses.
But
right? Like,
private entities or private business or service providers, regardless, you signed or you agreed to terms and conditions. So if you agree to terms and conditions, you set up an account with something. If you break the terms and conditions and you say, I agree to these, and the last thing is, we reserve the right to remove, ban, based off of our community standards, and there's a link to community standards. If you break, like, at the end of the day, that's not stifling Alexis Jones' freedom of speech. It may be in that one aspect, but everybody who signs up to there agrees to something.
Are we sure he violated the community standards?
And I'm not sure at all. I don't know.
I really don't know.
And it's not up to us to say if you violate the community standards. We didn't create them, and we didn't ask them to agree to them.
Absolutely true.
I don't know what Facebook's community standards. I know I violate it constantly.
Yeah, I get
Constantly.
I just stay off of it.
Reddit has
Or not
banned me-
Facebook, Instagram. I'm not on Facebook.
Reddit has
Instagram,
been. Yeah, I've been banned off Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You were banned off Snapchat the other day.
No, I got a picture removed off Snapchat because someone reported me.
And I'm talking at least 24-hour bans on all those social media sites for things that are not even controversial, things that are more of a conservative mindset. Even though I'm a left-leaning, I'm a right-leaning liberal.
But that's
like
and that's the issue. That's the issue, right? The issue isn't that they're banning people. The issue, to me, the issue is that they're not handing out these punishments with an even hand.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what I wanted to say, is that they're not looking at. They're seeing one side and letting one side have all this freedom and free will, and the other the other argument to that topic is kind of put by the wayside and saying, no, you're not allowed to say that anymore. So and if you do, then you're going to be punished.
And you know what? It's so strange. It goes against, and I find it so strange that this is happening these days with, let's say, the popularity that something like hip hop had back in the day, right? And what was one of the prevalent mentalities of the hip hop movement? Snitches get stitches. Right? Yeah. So, but now the online culture is completely the opposite of that. Right? You have people snitching on people everywhere. And for no good reason other than, well, I don't like what you communicated here.
Right.
Right? So I'm going to snitch on you. And they're not going to do a proper review because, hey, there's something that somebody found not nice.
Oh, and it's one person that found something bad, and everybody else is okay with it. But if one person finds something wrong with it, right, and it's like a snowball down a hill, right?
So bottom line is, if in real life you don't like snitches, follow through on the internet as well. Stop snitching on people.
Right. I'm
100%.
Yeah.
There's communication for you. Don't communicate it.
How to communicate? Don't. Trust me, it's safer. No, but it's like even this podcast. I mean, I told you guys last week I have a running list of where we've been banned from, right? Just from subject matter, from me just trying to explain to the moderators of these social media sites that, listen, we're having a logical conversation with both sides, or we try to represent all sides, or try to go through everything we're saying with all the facts we have given to us, right? We're just having a conversation about it. We hope to just spark conversation. And even that, they'll say, well, we don't agree with what you guys said on the 30th minute or 33rd minute. I'm like,
wow,
really?
Isn't
One
that
thing?
Something?
And like, was there a rebuttal for that? Yes, there was. But it seemed like the opinion was agreed to instead of the argument. So we have to take this off. I'm like, so what? So because the argument was better for the other side.
Yes.
That you don't agree with, you have to take this off. Fantastic. Like it's to the point now where, like, why do we do this shit?
Because we like to.
Why do we do what?
This, like, why? I don't understand why we keep doing these things that are getting banned off everywhere, and why. I mean, I understand in society we have to.
We live in cancel culture, fam. We live in a culture where people have the power to cancel you. What does Charlemagne say? The court of public opinion rules the land right now.
Yeah.
And there's an odd set of outcasts and degenerates that want to.
I got to say it.
That want to. Well, no, you just had a better word than what I was thinking. That want to step outside of that kind of throw mud and kind of hold a mirror up to the court of public opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
When, like, for example, there was the Chris Brown got detained because of allegations of rape in France.
Right. Within an hour or two.
Yeah, and then and Chris Brown put up this thing, she's lying, da da da, and I reposted that. Motherfuckers were like, oh, it's funny how he said something about morals and da 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 da, right? And I'm like, you got to be talking about the Rihanna situation. Chris Brown beat Rihanna, da 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 da, in the car.
Nothing to do with rape.
Nothing to do with rape, but still, it's violence against a woman, and someone wants to use that as his morals, or whatever. I'm like, okay, so I want you to tell me 10, 15 years ago, the person you were and what you did in your life at that time, and tell me if you're the same person now, right? No, people don't change. And I put everybody in their seat. Like, everybody's like, yeah, you're right, except for one dude. I'm like, people as children in the public eye and da 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 da, go through this shit, do their time, do their probation, da 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 da. In 10 to 15 years, morals and beliefs change.
Yeah.
And you grow and da da da. But then they're like, oh, he's a pretty bad guy, and they posted his arrest record. I'm like, you know what? You need to sit the fuck down. Now you're gonna post some motherfucker's arrest record and how many times the police have talked to him about some shit. He threw a rock through a rehab window. He's not a good guy. Okay, cool. But so he raped this girl, and then while I'm fucking having these conversations, the French police release him are thinking about filing charges against false claims. This woman's like, I wasn't really raped. I feel like I was mentally manipulated into having sex.
What?
So basically, he kicked game on her, and she's like, yeah. And then now he's filing suit against her. So tell me, like, at the end of the day, everybody's trying to get that bag, and not all money is good money, but everybody's trying to get that bag. But as soon that court of public opinion, this Chris Brown is not going to. Justin Bieber gave his support for Chris Brown, and his fans are up in arms. Are you kidding me? You gave support to someone who was falsely accused, proving that they're falsely accused.
Right.
But fuck that. No.
Here's the thing is that
women. Hashtag
me too.
And that's the thing now is we're forced to believe a story instead of facts nowadays
because we don't want to be that problem.
Because we don't want to be the problem, right? Now,
you don't know you're a part of the problem. Well, tell me why. Well, I know.
Yeah.
It's like
a girl saying, well, I'm mad at you. Why? Well, if you don't know why, then.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I get.
No, tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, I get, and that's mostly the scuffles I get into on social media. Is that like I'm just like, tell me the reason why this is what you say it is.
Yes.
And most people can't even put it into words, right? And I'm just like, this is so ridiculous.
They don't even know.
I'm like, this is so ridiculous. You can't tell me why you're feeling this way, but yet you're steadfast in believing this.
Yes.
And these are the same people that want to turn into motherfucking inspirational speakers. Motherfucking the same people that have the highest
20 years old,
highest morals and the highest fucking standards. Yet they posting up bikini pictures or Fashion Nova pictures with the Martin Luther King quote on it. There, like, he didn't die for this. No. You know what I'm saying? You got a Bible quote with your ass out there. Jesus didn't die for your ass to be out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, but that's freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, but it's only freedom of speech when it's your ass crack on there. Get the fuck out of here. I'd rather know who the fuck, and even, you know what, I'd rather have that free speech out there because I want to know who the fuck my enemies are. At least my enemies will be in my face and telling me exactly how they fucking feel. That's one good thing about Trump. At least I know who my enemies are now. At least I know how people really feel, and know if you want to be a racist, but own it. Own it. Just like if you want to be gay, but own it. Don't sneak around. Don't get married and bring something back to your wife. Don't be undercover gay. Be gay. Own it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And these people aren't owning it. If you think he's a racist, then own it. But you cannot own. What do you say? You can believe whatever the fuck you want until there's objective. What the fuck?
Oh yeah, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
Yeah, like you see it right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have the same energy. If you don't see if you don't see facts behind anything, you don't see proof of anything. Yeah. Don't just believe something then. Step out the fucking box.
Yeah.
Just be like, okay, this da-da-da. Step out the box and be like, oh, well, he's right. If you don't know, he's part of the problem. Well, listen, what do you know? Tell me what you know.
Yeah.
And if you still feel he's racist after that, cool. You feel he's racist, but own it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1,000,000%. And that's the thing is like, I just completely lost my train of thought.
Tiger Woods, y'all. I mean, Kobe. Nigga, I'm high. One of them niggas. I don't know who the fuck.
Yeah, like you're allowed to believe whatever you want, I guess. But when the facts are there, facts don't give a fuck about your feelings. Facts are facts for a reason. That's why they're called facts, right? It is the truth. Simple.
Yeah.
I say it too. You laugh at me every time I
Would
say
a
it.
fact by any of the names still be a fact?
Right?
Philosophize, my brother. Philosophize.
You see, when you take the paramillium and put it into the cerebellum, a fact is still a fact, my brother. So when we come back here and the proclamation put us down on Plymouth Rock, you have to say, was it false? No, because a fact is still a fact, even if it's called a lie for factual purposes, my brother. Can I get a hearsay? Hearsay. Now,
Hearsay.
the statute of limitations says, if the diaphragm of litigation perceives to be fundamentalized,
I wish you
It's
guys
not
could
guilty.
see Will's. I wish you guys could see Will's facial expression. He went like half Keenan Ivory Wayans, half fucking Bill Cosby.
I didn't know where I was going, but I got there.
Yeah. But you reminded
I
me what
love those skits.
You reminded me of what I was thinking of.
The living color Jane skits. Jane skits,
Yeah.
And when he put out the audio, and then he had an audio tape.
Flagellate.
He's sitting there with a motherfucking kufi on, holding his fucking. My brother, if you holding his Quran and shit.
All right.
Oh shit, let's go.
You reminded me of what I was thinking about, actually. We're living in a world where people are thinking that they're so open-minded and they're so willing to accept a bunch of things, and yet they're so unwilling to accept facts that it's, I don't know, it's scary.
Well, I think, you know what, as the whole saying goes, it's great to be to have an open mind, right? But not so open that your brain falls out.
Right. Oh, you know, and even on that, I mean, there's,
Shout out to hall parties.
right? Yeah. But it's like,
You talking dancehall parties?
no.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, not the old ones.
Even
Oh,
the episode we done the grievance studies hoax. Now you can't even. You have to do research upon research upon research to see which reviews or
Yeah, you have to research your research.
yeah,
Which is like,
which journals and which studies have been approved and which ones, you know, and how you're going to formulate your ideas now. It's almost strange. You have to break it down to your own moral code.
Yeah, I guess so. I have thoughts on that, but that's for another episode.
All right.
moral codes.
And with that, we out this motherfucker.